You know, for over half a century, the moon's just been there. A quiet neighbor visited only by our robotic explorers. Well, guess what? We're heading back. And this time, we're not just visiting. We're planning to stay. But here's the thing. Setting up shop on another world, it's not as easy as it looks. Beyond that beautiful, stark landscape lies some really serious hidden dangers. Problems we absolutely have to solve before we can even think about calling it a second home.
Okay, picture this. You're on the moon, and that message flashes inside your helmet's display. No explanation, no time to ask questions, just a direct, urgent command to get to safety right now. And this isn't some sci-fi movie scene. This is the kind of reality future astronauts will have to face, where threats you can't even see can pop up in a split second.
So what are we actually up against? It goes way beyond just the vacuum of space or the fact that there's no air to breathe. The real challenges are a lot more subtle and in some ways a lot more dangerous. They're literally baked into the lunar environment itself. So let's pull back the curtain on these hidden dangers. And we're going to start with the very ground beneath their feet.
Right, so humanity's big return to the moon with the Artemis program isn't just about planting another flag and taking some pictures. Nope. This is about building a permanent presence for both humans and robots. But to do that, we first have to tackle the fundamental hostility of the lunar environment, and that begins with the ground itself.
The first and maybe the most sneaky challenge is the moon dust. I mean, you look at pictures and it seems so soft and powdery, almost like a fine gray sand. But the reality is that the surface of the moon is covered in one of the most abrasive and hazardous materials we have ever come across.
It's called lunar regolith. And you have to understand, it wasn't formed by gentle processes like wind and water, like soil is here on Earth. No, this stuff was born from pure violence. Billions of years of non-stop bombardment by micrometeorites and charged particles from the sun, which have smashed lunar rock into these microscopic, razor-sharp shards.
See, the soil here on Earth, it's been smoothed out by wind, rain, and life for eons. It's tame. Lunar regolith is the total opposite, a completely different beast. The particles are sharp, glassy, and jagged. And because there's no oxygen or water to mellow them out, they're also chemically reactive and have a static charge. What does that mean? It means they stick to absolutely everything.
And this isn't just, a cleaning problem, this is a mission-critical threat. This dust is so abrasive, it can literally chew through the seals on a habitat or the fabric of a spacesuit. It sticks to solar panels, choking off their power. And if astronauts track it inside and breathe it in, those tiny, glassy daggers can cause serious lung damage, a lot like silicosis here on Earth.
You know, when the Apollo astronauts came back inside their lunar module, they were covered in this stuff. And every single one of them reported the same bizarre thing. It had this sharp, pungent smell, exactly like spent gunpowder. What a crazy sensory reminder that you are standing on something totally, utterly alien.
All right, so if the ground itself doesn't get you, the extreme environment just might. Because the moon has no real atmosphere to act like a blanket, it has some of the most brutal temperature swings you can find anywhere in the solar system.
I mean, just try to wrap your head around this. For 2 straight weeks, that's 1 lunar day, the surface is baking in direct sunlight, getting hot enough to boil water. Then for the next 2 weeks, it plunges into a darkness so cold it makes Antarctica feel like a beach vacation. We're talking about a temperature swing of almost 300 degrees Celsius, or 500 degrees Fahrenheit. Now imagine you have to design a piece of equipment that can survive that, over and over again.
So how in the world do you build a thermal system for that? You need something that can act as a super efficient radiator during the day, just dumping all that heat out into space. And then, at night, it has to flip a switch and become a perfect insulator to keep all the electronics from freezing solid. I mean, engineers looked at all kinds of incredibly complex systems to try and crack this nut.
And the solution they came up with? Oh, it's just a masterpiece of simple, brilliant engineering. It uses this clever system of heat pipes that basically act like a smart thermal switch. During that scorching lunar day, they move heat away from the electronics to the radiators. But as darkness falls and things cool down, the system automatically shuts itself off, trapping that heat inside. And the best part? The absolute genius of it all? It does this completely on its own, with zero power, zero software, zero commands. It just works.
Okay, so surviving the dust in the cold, that's step one. But to really build a base on the moon, to actually thrive there, we have to connect it.
We need reliable, high-speed communication for our rovers, our science experiments, and of course, our astronauts. It's totally non-negotiable.
And the answer, believe it or not, is something you probably use every single day. NASA and Nokia are actually building the moon's very first cellular network. A base station on a lunar lander will create a 4G LTE bubble connecting astronauts and rovers and then beam all that data back to us here on Earth. Yeah, it's literally a cell tower on the moon.
And we're not just talking about making phone calls, right? This network will let us control rovers from a distance in real time. It'll stream high-def video right from an astronaut's helmet camera. It will transmit massive amounts of science data. This is basically the central nervous system for our future moon base. Now, using 4G on the moon points to this bigger, kind of revolutionary idea that's taking hold in space exploration. Why build everything from scratch for millions and millions of dollars when we have incredibly powerful and cheap technology right here on Earth? And this whole philosophy was proven by a project that honestly sounded completely nuts at first.
Let me introduce you to PhoneSat. The idea was as simple as it was audacious. Could you take a regular off-the-shelf smartphone, just like the one that's probably in your pocket right now, and use it as the entire brain of a satellite? No custom-built multi-million-dollar flight computer, just a regular, unmodified Android phone.
And the goals here? They were absolute game changers. Could this really slash the cost of a satellite by a factor of 1,000? Could a little consumer device really provide 100 times more processing power than traditional expensive space hardware? PhoneSat was this huge test to see if using Earth tech in space was a brilliant shortcut or just a really foolish risk.
And the result? Wow. It was just breathtaking. This picture of our planet was taken by a standard smartphone camera, processed by that phone's CPU, and then transmitted back to Earth where amateur radio operators picked it up. PhoneSat proved, without a shadow of a doubt, that consumer technology couldn't just survive in space, it could actually thrive. This is the project that gave us the confidence to try crazy things, like building a 4G network on the moon. So you see, all these different solutions, for the dust, for the temperature, for communication, they're not just separate little fixes for separate little problems. They are the essential building blocks, the foundational technologies for creating a sustainable, long-term human future on the moon. And they're all driven by this new philosophy of using clever, proven terrestrial tech.
The grand vision here is to build a lunar network that works just like the Internet of Things we have on Earth. A seamless, interconnected web linking habitats, rovers, science stations, and even individual astronauts. It's an infrastructure that can grow and scale up as our presence grows, from a tiny first outpost to a bustling lunar settlement.
So, step by step, we're figuring out how to conquer the challenges of the moon we already know about. Its vicious dust, its wild temperatures, its vast and intimidating silence, they're all starting to yield to human ingenuity. Which just leaves you wondering, as we take this next giant leap, what's the next big invisible challenge waiting for us out there in the dark?